How's it going, Thrivers? Miguel here from CFS Recovery. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the concept of making recovery more predictable. Now, I know how difficult it is to be dealing with something like CFS, long COVID, fibromyalgia, all these different types of mysterious health issues that the doctors can't seem to fix. And I know how frustrating it is trying to make progress, trying to gain momentum in recovery. And it seems like every 2 steps forward, you take 2 steps back. Sometimes you could do certain activities and you're completely fine. Other times you do the activities and you completely flare up. So it makes this whole process of recovery very confusing, very frustrating, and very unpredictable if you don't have a recovery system or certain strategies to follow. So I'm going to be sharing a couple different concepts here to look at this almost like a puzzle, that can absolutely be solved because it's been solved so many times by so many different people all around the world. It might just be that you don't have the right pieces in the right place. And so if you don't know much about my story, I dealt with severe symptoms for about 4.5 years. I would have to stop working for several months, then go back to work, and then I'd crash again, and I'd be sick for several months, and I was dealing with 50+ symptoms. At my worst, I was completely hospitalized. I was bedridden for about 8 months straight. The last 2 months of those, I was in the hospital. I was in the ICU, and I had to learn how to use a wheelchair again to really just move around and then learn how to walk on my own 2 feet. And several years later, here I am today. I'm able to exercise, travel, work out, work full-time, and really have my life back and do much more than I actually used to do prior to getting sick. And so if we go back, right, things were just very unpredictable on my recovery journey. And I know what it's like. You know, you try so many different things, and when you think about the emotional toll this journey takes on you, it's like a roller coaster. Okay, if this is like a baseline set of emotion, right? And this is really happy up here, and this is pretty sad. Every single time you try a new treatment or a new method or a new healing modality, maybe it's a new supplement or medication, you seem to get very excited, then it peaks out, and you're hoping that the results will come. You're hoping that what you're doing is actually going to move the needle forward in recovery. But more often than not, you fall into the cycle of, oh, that didn't work. You actually might feel a little bit worse, and then you go down here, right? And then it bottoms out. So it's like this emotional high of excitement that something's going to work, and then it comes crashing down a little bit, right? And then you may find another treatment because you may have been looking online in some Reddit forums, Facebook groups, things like that, new research, and they say, oh, try this supplement or that supplement. The excitement high happens again, right? But it doesn't work. And then over time, you get so sick of going on these ups and downs, this roller coaster, that nothing really excites you anymore because you've been excited, you've been hopeful, you've crossed your fingers, you've taken something and hoped that this would at least move the needle forward until you kind of like emotionally checked out of this thing. And at some point, I know for myself at least, a part of me almost accepted the fact that this might be my life forever. Doesn't mean I'm gonna stop fighting for my health, doesn't mean I'm gonna give up, but I started to have less and less hope as time went on because you're just so disappointed. And actually, this is inaccurate. Like, you actually get more and more disappointed every single time. So every time something doesn't work, it's like a new low and a new low and a new low. So this graph, I'd say this is called like the hope graph. This is the hope graph. That starts to trend downwards completely when things don't work. And this doesn't just apply to getting sick. This is just like anything in life. Why would you continue getting hopeful for something if the harder you try, the more disappointed you get and nothing seems to be working? So it makes it extremely frustrating. Obviously, this can start leading to a lot of depression, right? A lot of hopelessness, a lot of feeling isolation, because on the outside, people see you're trying these different things and they might even offer, hey, why don't you try this? Have you tried this thing? But even just hearing new ideas, you start to get upset because you're almost traumatized from this experience of being disappointed, right? Why would you continue doing something if 99 times out of 100 you were disappointed, right? And so hope, it's not a strategy, right? Hope is good, hope is great, I think, but in order to actually overcome something like this, you need to have more than just hope. You need an actual strategy, an actual framework to follow. It's kind of like someone trying to solve a Rubik's Cube, right? If you go in there, and if you don't know what a Rubik's Cube is, it looks something like this. You can't just keep spinning the cubes, putting a bunch of things in a random sequence and just hope that you solve the thing, right? If you do that and you do that nonstop, it might take you days, weeks, months to actually get it right and get all the colors proper on each different side. However, some kid with a strategy who's done this so many times, he could probably solve that thing in about a minute. I know myself, right? I could usually solve one side of that Rubik's Cube. It was predictable. Every single time I know I can solve it within about 60 seconds. My brother, he can solve the whole Rubik's Cube in about 1 or 2 minutes. Every single time without failure, because it's not hope, there's an actual strategy. And so this leads into my next point here that I want to talk about. I was talking with a sports psychologist the other week, and we were talking about how difficult it is to implement neuroplasticity techniques, but at the same time, how simple it is. And he gave me this analogy that I thought applied perfectly to CFS, because there's two different strategies or two different approaches that people typically have. In the beginning, my strategy was spray and pray. Let's try anything and everything and just keep going until something works. So strategy one, okay, it's kind of like playing slot machines. Okay, so I'm gonna write slot machines, and I'm gonna draw it as well. So here we have the slot machine, you have this thing, you have, you know, all these different graphs on there where you could win prizes. I'll put X's, O's, different shapes, all of those things, right? There's maybe a little button here you press, right? And it spins the wheel. Maybe there's a couple buttons. So you say stop, there's a little coupon thing here, and maybe there's a few other buttons for that. And there's a little stool, okay? This is a stool. Excuse my drawing. So, slot machine strategy. What is a strategy? That's you have some input in recovery, you try something and you're hoping for an outcome. You're crossing your fingers, you don't know what it's gonna be. You just know that maybe if the stars align and I maybe do the right thing and with luck, I might win, okay? So there is no real strategy there. I should actually rename this to approach, okay? So strategy slash approach one, okay? So this is the first scenario, right? And I tried this for years and years and years because that's all I knew. And obviously you're going to all these doctors, they're saying, yeah, you should try this, you should try that. But eventually you have a set of 15 or 20 different ways to recover and you're kind of bouncing between all of them. That's very similar to you putting your energy into the slot machine and then hoping that it leads to recovery. But more often than not, most people who play slot machines, they don't win, okay? They actually lose money. So it's like you're putting credits, you're putting energy into this thing and not getting anything in return, okay? On the other hand, not slot machines, is gonna be strategy two. And strategy two is like a vending machine. Now a vending machine, I'm gonna draw this out. Of course, we have this square box thing. We have a bunch of buttons on the side here. We have a thing where you pay down here. And then you have a bunch of different items over here. And then it spits out a thing. Every single time it's gonna spit out some kind of product, like a drink or a candy bar or whatever you decide to choose. But the difference between the vending machine and the slot machine is it's completely predictable. You know exactly what you're gonna get every single time without fail, unless of course the machine breaks, but it's very rare, okay? With this, you know you're gonna put your energy in and you know exactly what it's gonna give you, right? It's like a la carte. You do this, you press this button, you do this action, it's attached to this. If you do this action, it's attached to this outcome. You do this action, it's attached to this outcome. Whereas with the slot machine, you press this button over here, you don't know what you're gonna get. You don't even know if you're gonna get anything at all, okay? So which one, if you were in a position of being in front of these two machines and let's say you were really thirsty and you wanted water, would you rather play the slot machine that might give you a chance of the best drink in the world, and keep in mind, you're very thirsty, or would you rather have the vending machine where you pay? Yeah, it's a little bit more than this, a little bit more, I guess, activation energy. You got to pull out your card, you got to pay every time, you got to look at it, kind of analyze what you want, press a button. So there is more input energy required, but you know exactly what you're going to get, versus this random thing where, yeah, all you have to do is press a button and you might get something. Which one would you rather have? So I'll tell you this, I'll take the vending machine every single time. And so what we have to ask ourselves is, when it comes to recovery, are you going in with a slot machine strategy, the slot machine approach, or the vending machine approach? Now, it was very difficult for me to even figure out there was like a vending machine approach when it came to recovery, something that actually worked, something where I do this specific thing and I get this specific outcome. I do this specific thing and my capacity physically increases. I can walk more. I do this thing and a month from now, I know I'm gonna have more energy, less symptoms. I'm actually gonna be moving forward on my recovery journey. I did not know that this existed. I thought it was just this. And I thought, based on your genetics, based on how you were raised, what environment you were in, what kind of symptoms you had, that it was gonna be actually a different approach. I didn't realize that there was an actual vending machine for recovery, right? And that's exactly what I've built, essentially, myself and my team, for the people we help. If you notice, in all of the YouTube videos on this channel, I'm talking about similar things. I'm just talking about them from different angles and different perspectives. So the outcome is the same. The inputs are typically the same, right? It's just different areas of recovery that we talk about. But regardless, the principles stay the same. It's not random. And this is how we can get somebody to go from completely bedridden or couch-bound or housebound, semi-functional, to moving forward in recovery. Now, of course, it's not cookie cutter. It's not like, you know, one person who's bedridden and another person who's bedridden do the exact same things, but there is something predictable about this, right? Now, what I would recommend here is learning the basic recovery principles. I have a playlist on this channel. You can click it up here with the must-watch recovery videos that I think they're a must-watch, because these were the foundational principles that once I understood those, recovery became 100 times easier, right? I'm not saying it became easy. It was still difficult at some points, but it was easier than what I was doing, right? And that was the vending machine approach, because you know, like I said, if you do X, Y, Z, you're gonna get the same results. Typically, how progress works is increase capacity. So activity goes up every single time, right? And that could be physical activity, cognitive, it could be emotional activity, that goes up. What happens after that is typically an adjustment period. I'm gonna write adjustment period, okay? Which is basically a flare-up. Your symptoms will actually increase 9 times out of 10. 3 is you absolutely have to respond well, or respond as best you can, plus pull back. Do not stop everything you're doing. Do not go from walking every day to lying down for 5 days straight. Just slow down, pull back. It's kind of like driving a car. You don't want to be driving on the highway and then at the first signs of the car doing something funny, you absolutely slam on the brakes, right? That's going to ruin the car even more. You want to slow down, okay? But you also have to respond well. This is the key here, okay? What happens is over time, as you respond well and you pull back, this could be anywhere from a few hours of you responding well and pulling back to several weeks. Nonetheless, if you do this right, then there is an increase of capacity. Also, there's going to be less symptoms overall, okay? Now that's a very simple overview. Obviously there's a lot of stuff that goes into it because I say respond well and pull back. You know, what does that look like? It can look different for a lot of people, what pulling back is, depending on where you're at in recovery. But responding well, what does that look like, right? And I have videos about that up here. You can watch that. But basically, this is the predictable cycle of progress. We call them progress cycles. There's actually a name for it. This is I'm just gonna write textbook progress cycle, right? Because that happens every time, okay? This over here is the progress cycle, and you just repeat and repeat and repeat. So if you know you're gonna get this every single time, there are no surprises. A lot of people, they'll flare up and they'll have adjustment periods after they've done an activity, and they'll be surprised, they'll be upset. But why are we upset if that is actually part of the process, right? It's like going to the gym. You wouldn't get upset if you worked out and you were sore. If anything, you'd actually be happy because that means it was an effective workout. Now, being sore is different from being injured as well. I'm not saying go out there and push as hard as you can and flare up as much as you can and end up in a crash, right? But if you expand activity gently, I should write gently here as well, then you'll have an adjustment period, respond well, pull back. The result of that is an increase of capacity and less symptoms. And then you repeat the cycle over and over and over again. And that's how you recover predictably, how you make progress predictably, how to have less frustration, less guesswork. The way we do that is through some kind of framework, some kind of vending machine where you do a certain action and you get the same output every single time, the same result every single time, versus doing the slot machine approach and just putting energy into recovery and then hoping for the best. So my question for you is, you can be honest, right? There is no right or wrong answer here. I know for myself, for the longest time, I was playing slot machines with recovery. As soon as I switched to the vending machine, that's when I actually started making significant progress. And I never really went back to doing the slot machines, right? Because I'd much rather have something more predictable versus this, because this drove me absolutely crazy, right? I felt like I was losing my mind with this, right? And if you think about it, actually, in terms of gambling, if you go to a casino, those people, they're almost addicted to that. And a part of it is, you know, I've put so much into this strategy. I've tried this for so long. I don't want to feel like I wasted my time, right? Because if I switch to another strategy and try following a different program or a different approach, I actually have to admit that what I've been doing this whole time was wasting my time, essentially. I wouldn't say it's wasting your time, but initially the thought is, that means this entire time I was wrong doing this. And I don't want to admit that to myself by switching over to something that would work. Also, don't be afraid of letting go of this. I wouldn't say it's wasted time. I wouldn't say it's lost time, because in the beginning, you actually do have to play this, right? You have to go to the doctors, go to the specialists, get your scans done, get your tests done. You have to take doctors' recommendations. You might have to be referred to an endocrinologist where you have to wait 6 months. And in the meantime, you're trying different things so you can feel better in the meantime. And then you get there and then they start giving you all these different supplements that you can't really say no to, or at least you don't want to, right? But after you played slot machines for a while, and if it hasn't worked, which it probably hasn't if you're watching this video right now, and we're this deep into the video, it's probably a good idea to start switching over to the vending machine strategy and completely get rid of this slot machine approach. That's personally what I would do and what I have done. It was honestly one of the best decisions I've ever made. And obviously I was lucky enough to discover this vending machine that existed in recovery. And that's something we help people with now. Our version of the recovery vending machine is the recovery system that we've created, where no matter what stage somebody is at, like I said, whether they're bedridden, they're couchbound, housebound, semi-functional, no matter what kind of symptoms they're dealing with, how long they've been dealing with this for, we actually have a proprietary nervous system health assessment, an analysis tool, where we can look at all these different aspects of their situation and we can come up with a personalized plan so they can progress without hitting any plateaus. And with constant communication with a coach who's been in your shoes, it's gonna allow you to have the most predictable outputs for all the inputs you're doing into recovery, right? It's gonna allow you to have those predictable results. So if that's something you're looking for, that's absolutely something we could help with. So I would suggest watch that playlist that I mentioned in the beginning of the video. I'll also link it down below. And if you did want some extra help in this area, if you wanted something more predictable, something where you'll receive a personalized plan that's data-driven, that's based on your situation, then you can check out our recovery system. I'll leave a link down below. But I hope you got lots of value out of this video. Comment down below, what was the biggest takeaway? Did this make sense for you? And which one are you implementing right now? The slot machine or the vending machine approach? Always remember that you are a thriver and you are just one mind shift away from living a life with thriving health. I'll see you in the next video.
I'd say that CFS recovery is absolutely the real deal.
I actually felt like somebody had an answer, like somebody explained what was going on and it all clicked.